our minds and making us more literate. Oh, we're getting smarter? The whole world is getting smarter? Something in the 80 percentile. All of us are being able to read, write, and integrate into the culture. Let's listen in and join us. So I'm Dan.
And I'm Nick, folks.
We're old friends dissecting one topic at a time. People, technology, media, we've got it all covered.
Each discussion here is a deep dive into our unique perspective. The taboo, forbidden subjects, they're all on the chopping block, baby. We don't pander to popular opinion. We might even get a little bit dirty.
Warning, this podcast may contain mature language and sexual content and is for infotainment purposes only.
So join us. Have a good time.
Open up your ear holes, because we're going to fondle your follicles. All right. Nice. So I do have a correction from last time.
I knew you would.
I think we were talking about conspiracy theories and footsteps on the moon that you could see through a
telescope.
Yeah, telescope. I blanked on telescope.
Magnifying glass.
Yeah,
I was like, magnifying glass.
Apparently, the optics are such that you can only see about a football field's width, length. That makes more sense. On the moon, so you would never be able to see a footprint or the flag or the lander. So,
okay, resolution only gets as good as 100 yards ish.
Yes, somewhere in that range. I think it was 238. Don't quote me on that feet. And then so couldn't really prove. You couldn't prove as an individual. You relied on something else called LRO, which is like an optics satellite that NASA has that could show that there was someone had landed, someone who walked from here.
How convenient.
Yeah. Trust the government and NASA.
The only people who know NASA landed on the moon is NASA. Is that what you're telling me?
I am.
I'm glad you fixed that. I also had a correction.
Sure.
I said microwaves weren't real.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were real. They're not. We're good. It's fake.
Like they can't get to your brain inside your house, inside.
I did it. Leave my family alone. Anyway, it's all fake, folks. Go about your daily lives. Don't mind us. And we wouldn't pander, so everything's fine. Everything's hunky-dory.
Yeah. Sonic invasion.
Which may have come up in the news. I don't know if it comes up again by the time this episode's released. Did you catch that?
About which aspect?
Chinese
diplomats?
Yeah.
Is this the one where they're getting... I mean, I heard the one about Cuba.
And headaches. Yeah, and there was one in Cuba, too. There was one in Cuba and possibly one in, the Chinese diplomat area. I forget where.
Yeah, that conspiracy expert said it was not possible, but someone is also saying it could be radiation related, that they're pointing radiation towards them, and that's causing this auditory issue. It gives them headaches and hear noises and stuff.
Nausea. Didn't someone get brain damage? Someone was seriously brain damaged, I thought. One of the participants. Anyway, it was just a really weird government report I read, and I was like, this is a government report? It was one person had brain damage, the other one had complaint of nausea and something else, and they're looking into it. That's it. And I was like, that's moving on.
Yeah.
Nice topical for you.
Yeah.
So what were we going to talk about tonight, Mike?
I really wanted to talk about illiteracy, but really...
Well, this is crazy because my notes tonight...
Unreading. Episode 66-ish.
This is all I have. 66-ish. Yeah, I'm not really sure about the number, but that's all I got. Having a little trouble reading it myself. What's the definition of unreading?
Literacy?
Yeah, what is literacy?
Most people
I don't even know 100%.
Yeah, most people believe it has to do with reading and writing.
Just reading, 100%. That's it. If you can read a stop sign, you're not illiterate, right?
Well, it's kind of weird because people are judging via surveys whether you can read, and then you have to respond to them, which means, and I guess in today's age, you have to click. But in the past, you probably had to write something, so maybe reading and writing. but it also involves other things which are not commonly talked about, like phonemic awareness, like how things are connected when you're reading something, like saying like cat instead of like sat, like the C sound. Like, you know how vowels are connected, how consonants are connected, if different things look different ways, how they sound.
Like, are you telling me I gotta get diphthongs correct?
How literate are you? I don't know. If
I actually imagine, for once in my life, I'm Pander Dan, I think I might be more literate than you.
Potentially. We should come up with a test.
A literacy test.
Third-party test.
Yeah, third-party testing. If you got anything in the comments below, please submit it. We'll have our lawyers check into it. We'll have a lot of people check into it, and we will make sure that it makes me appear more literate.
Yeah.
I have English as a major.
So another thing is that the testing for literacy is done by like 4 different methods, which is like, again, reading and writing, but it's also like who says like I'm literate. It's like, okay, you're good. Or it's like third party, like they're asking them, are they literate? And then there's like the test. So it's like, I don't know that these numbers really add up. Like globally, it's like 84% ish.
Did you know I got 2 numbers for global?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I got, which I thought was fascinating because, you know, it's hard to pin down the global literacy rate. Good lord,
because it's individual, right?
And global
cultural
populations change, cultures change. Like people are getting internet all the time. But we'll say I read it was between 781 million people on one website and 1 billion on another.
That are illiterate?
Correct. That ranges from 10 to 25%, roughly, if you do your math.
And now, like, where does the age range count in that? Like, are they testing children?
15. I have it written down.
15 or 16.
15 years and older.
Okay, that makes sense.
Read and write in whatever language you are supposed to read and write.
Well, that's kind of
interesting.
Also, does that cover people who are mentally disabled? Like, are you testing the population that have issues other than just being normal?
I think so. I think it also. I wonder if caught up in these calculations. Let's say someone moves to America from another non-speaking area, whether they're legal or illegal, and they have a job and they speak like barely any English, but they get by, like a menial job. I imagine if they get surveyed, they're considered illiterate, correct?
Yeah, I would think so.
Even though they might be a doctor in Spanish or Chinese or whatever their native tongue is, they're here and they're considered illiterate because they don't know how to fill out a survey. Essentially, it's how good can you fill out this survey? Is that what we're getting at?
I think so. So it's mainly bullshit. I don't think that a literacy number is accurate for the global population.
No, but I think it's. I was going to say indicative, but it's very. I mean, it points to a direction. I imagine that somewhere between 10 and 25% of the globe is bad at reading and writing, maybe below what the average should be. So I don't think it's wrong. It's just I don't know that it's accurate. Does that make sense? Is that even a sentence? I think I just made that up.
No, I agree with you because I read some stats that 1 in 5 people has some sort of mental disease, and if it's it might be like 1 in 10 that have like a debilitating disease that causes them to not be able to 10%
and 20%, right?
Yeah, but like that's kind of surprising that like that is 5% of the population globally that can't read or write. That 5% is kind of low. I would expect it to be kind of higher, but that has been changing over the years as people become more involved in technology.
I got a global breakdown of the number for men and women. Ready for it? Because I also have the United States one, but we're going to show global because I guess we can do that more broad, and then we'll come to America. Get a little specific.
I have a number too.
Okay. Sure. So global, I had that about 18% of females are illiterate in the world.
I have 23%, so it's close.
Okay. Right. I mean, it is and it isn't, but anyway. And I also had that males 10%.
I have 13%.
Okay. Your website likes higher numbers. That's fine.
It was also posted in 2013. In 2013,
I think mine was a Wikipedia recent one, so I think it was more recent than yours.
So there's
and it would make sense if the number's going down, right?
Yeah, and there's there's a cultural aspect as well.
Okay.
For men versus women, for religions that don't believe that the women should do very much outside of the home, Do they need to
Ah,
be
a
literate?
little interesting because I found that in my last world stat, I'm going to throw it at you. 75% of all illiterate people in the world, this is 75% of them in the world, are all located in South Asia, West Asia, and Sub-Sahara Africa.
Hmm.
And 2/3 of those are women.
It's an amazing stat because most of the industrialized nations like the UK or United States, even Argentina or Russia, all those
Yeah,
places
do you
have
have
like
that? Do you have the list?
99%
Yeah.
literacy.
So you pull up a list. You say literacy by country. Now you'll see Argentina. Like you said Algeria, Albania. I'm running out of A's. You got to throw one more at me. Like one more round us out. Can you give me another A country?
You said
Albuquerque.
New Mexico? You said I don't know. Are there other A's? Australia.
Thank you.
Oh,
We're covered.
oh yeah, we got it.
Anyway, you're going through the list and like it's like 98, 99.2, 98.6, 97.9, 99.3, and then you're like 23%. You're like, holy shoot.
Yeah. Imagine doing a business in a country that doesn't have people that can read a receipt. They cannot comprehend it.
Wild. I don't know how you could do business. I guess.
Everything's verbal. I guess it's like of the moment. Like how you can't write contracts. Like people could never sign a contract. They'd be like,
I write them. Well, they would sign it too, but
you couldn't prove it in court of law.
I guess.
Yeah.
This would be even crazier. So you get poor people suckered, and you're like, "Ha, you owe me all your money. I wrote it in your contract." And they're like, "I don't know." And then they bring him to the judge, and he's like, "I don't know." It happens to be the judge can't read or write either. You're like,
damn it. Which
you got an illiterate judge. Son of a bitch.
So the prime reason for bringing up this episode was a story about shoeless Joe Jackson. He's a baseball player. He was really good.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, he was hitting. I think it was like early 1900s, maybe like 1910ish.
1910, 1918. I can imagine that. I could be wrong, but yeah, sounds right.
He was hitting like in the 350s, his batting average.
Diggity dog.
Apparently, he was involved in a conspiracy, which leads back to our previous episode. That when he didn't get a bonus, other people approached him and said, "We're gonna sink the World Series." And he agreed to it.
He was involved in the World Series
1919, I think, towards middle of his career.
Whatever it was. It was
White Sox.
I didn't know. Yeah. He was involved in that?
Apparently there were like 8 people. And
well, there were several, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Well, I don't know if there was like, they said there was like a contract that he signed and he gained $5,000, which was like 70. It's like a full year salary. It's like $70,000 this year.
Double.
But he also said that he was completely illiterate. So, like, if he signed a contract, he had no idea what it meant. He had no idea what was there. And he, in the World Series that he was trying to sink, he had, like, the best batting average of everybody. He had no errors.
Like 4 for 7.
Yeah, he was amazing. He was, like, the MVP of that series. Yet, they still came after him. Yeah, the MLB, Major League Baseball, came after him and still suspended him in the prime of his life, his baseball career.
How long did they suspend him for? Did you get that number? I was just curious. Was it
I think he stopped.
A year?
I don't know that he played again, but that was from one story that didn't lead into the after effects of his life. It was more about the conspiracy, which conspiracy theorists, they always go off in some weird direction, and you lose the reality of the situation.
Doesn't sound like them. Doesn't sound like them at all.
Yeah. But that's another thing, is that he was completely illiterate. No one really knew about it. He and another guy named Dexter Manley. Do you know who Dexter Manley is? He was a football player for the Washington Redskins. And at 28, he had a 2nd grade reading level.
Damn.
So he would fake it. So he would say, I was
I got it.
I was in the locker room and he was reading the what was it?
Wall Street manual for like a helmet?
Oh, no, Wall Street Journal.
Do you have it upside? Do you have it right side up?
Most of the time he had it right side up, and one time his coach saw him. He was like, he said his locker was right as he exited, so all the players would walk right by him. So he would fake it like he was reading it. He'd move his eyes left and right. He'd be like, really into it.
My man is genius.
Mm-hmm. And the coach walked by him one time and said, something's not right there. And he walked back in the locker room, and then it was upside down. So the coach kind of knew, but this guy was, I watched a video of him talking about his career, and he was so charismatic, and he was so into football, and he loved.
So hold
He was
on,
just
and he
childish.
spoke very eloquently. I mean, not eloquent
I wouldn't
necessarily,
say
but
eloquent.
he spoke well enough that you'd be like, this guy's a normal
He's
guy.
very endearing. He's a man child,
Okay.
is how they described him.
Okay. Huh.
He also said that he couldn't read menus, so he would follow up what people would say. Like they'd be like, "Oh, I like this," and then he'd be like, "Oh, I want what he wants." Like I like that. I'm gonna pick that one. So he would do that to a lot of his teammates, and his teammates never even noticed that he would always order what they ordered because he didn't know how to read the menu. And then getting off,
he just learned to read who wanted the best stuff. Like, dude, James always gets the good stuff. Yeah, I'll have what James had.
Yeah.
He's not here tonight. What do he usually gets? A burger.
Yeah. I'll have my
Which
usual
menu item?
Yeah. You know me.
Is now on you. Yeah. The onus is on you now.
Which is kind of amazing to live that like that. If you can't read like street signs, like how do you get to a new place? You can't. I don't know that you could follow directions.
So this is perfect that my kid is this age. Right now we're trying to teach him all his letters and numbers, and sometimes he gets them right, and sometimes he gets them wrong, and I think it's on purpose.
I think he is playing with you.
Right, but sometimes I'm like, we gotta work on focus. You know? What's interesting is he essentially is an intelligent-ish mind, growing, learning. Right. But I mean, I'm comparing him to someone who might be illiterate but older.
Yeah.
And he can find patterns with things that's crazy that I never would realize because he can't read or write, obviously. So he sees certain signs, he knows what they mean, not because he can read STOP, but the shape of the sign, the way it is.
How you're supposed to react when you see that shape or that color.
Exactly.
Like I sneezed and my son said, "God bless you," and
that's funny, dude. That's the best. And you're like,
he doesn't have no.
He has no clue what that means. He just knows you say it after someone sneezes, and that's a little bit like being illiterate in a literate world. You just do it because you know that's what people do.
Yeah,
it's weird. It's fascinating. Like he does other things like that. Like he knows how to turn left and right. He knows kind of how to get home, like via the streets, just the way they look, not the street signs. Now he's like, oh, I know we have to go west on Broad, or whatever.
Yeah,
and it's he does it. The other thing that's crazy is he plays Overwatch sometimes now. That's his game of choice. Right?
Nice.
And I can set him up. He usually plays against bots because I don't like him to play against real life kids because I don't know what other kids are saying, and he's bad enough where I think they'd smack him around.
Oh sure,
yeah, loser. User special on him. That's not cool, guys. That's not cool. So he usually plays against bots with other live teammates, and they play around. He understands when his special's full. He knows if he pauses the menu, he knows how to pause it and what's started versus what's like an option. He knows how to press certain buttons to do other things. And I'm like, you can't read anything. Like, what do you? It's like visual memory.
Yeah.
Right. It's visual memory combined with visual intuitiveness, which I guess happens to a person who might not be able to read or write. Like, I'm not going to sit here and read. I would never read anything for another person my age.
Yeah.
I'd never be like, well, at work today, I was my guitar, it says Yamaha. Like, I'm not sitting here reading anything to anyone. We all just assume we can read. So there's this gap in between where as long as you flow with what you're supposed to know, I don't think anyone's going to question you or call you out. It's a weird thing.
So the question is, would you notice if anybody in your daily life was illiterate? If you're always conversing with them verbally and they understand the verbal part of it, would you know that they couldn't read or write it down?
Yeah, I know a guy who... Actually, I worked with a guy. He would get the first letter of a street and just go with it.
He just stopped at one.
Well, I think it's a learning issue or like a mental block, or it's not a
Albania, Argentina, Australia.
Oh my God, that
all the same. They're all the same.
Loop. That's all one. But if he gets the first letter of a place right, and it's like B. And I could have 7 customers with B in it, but he just says the most popular one that's B. And I always just kind of brush it off like, no, idiot, it was whatchamacallit. But like looking back in my track in my brain, and I'm like, oh, And the other thing is like if he gets C-fold towels or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like he gets it. The C, it's a big whatever. But when it's like it's hard to
S-fold
explain.
towels.
Well, that's single fold
Yeah.
towels.
Whoa,
Good
whoa,
call. Yeah,
whoa.
good call, my friend. That is a thing. But like, I'm trying to think of what he does. Toilet tissue. So toilet tissue, you write toilet tissue and then you write the number afterwards. He has trouble. He gets all confused. He's like, "Is this the toilet paper that for so and so?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it says it right there, dude." And I always yell at him and like I give him a hard time. But it's occurred to me after the fact that like he's literate but barely. Like he
Functional
recognizes
literacy.
letters. Yeah, just enough. Like my son's gonna catch you next year. Is my thought process. And the other thing is, his life has changed drastically. He can he's literate enough where he can type an address into Google. So he'll type the address into Google and it will tell him how to get somewhere. So as a delivery driver, you used to have to know A, the name of the place, B, where it is, C, work a map and all this other
Graph
stuff,
it out in your
reading
head,
other
yeah.
signs and graph it up and do other things and read signs while you're going,
Yeah.
numbers, signs, whatever, figure out the address.
Now you almost don't need to be literate.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's almost a cheat code. Is that a thing? I don't know.
But nowadays it's like there's no way you could ignore having like if you have a smartphone, you want to be literate because that's the entirety of having a smartphone. You're reading, constantly figuring things out, and
You would think, except that he was dating a girl who may or may not have been a girl,
catfish,
and
maybe, possibly.
he would text this individual by speaking text
Oh.
or sending emojis. It was just literally, it was just a picture of himself, emojis, or speech to text, and that was it. There was
He would
no
never type it out.
never.
How did he understand what she said back to him? Would he have it read it to him?
I've caught him doing that once. Now that's not a lot over like a year, but
Maybe
I
he
guess
does it
he's
for
literate
everyone.
enough. He could when
Could
he.
read.
I've no clue when he goes home. I don't know.
Hmm.
But either way, like he's functional illiterate. And there's another guy I used to deliver to. He's a real good guy, and he called everyone baby boy. He's my favorite guy in the world.
Baby
He'd be
boy.
like, "Yo, baby boy, how you doing, baby boy?" And I'd be like, "Me?" And I thought it was weird he said it to me, but then like the next guy he sees, he's like, "Yo, baby boy, we got another thing going on." And he would give him a high five and give him a little clap back. And he was a good guy. He was always happy, always smiling. I still remember him. He got fired from there eventually, but I am almost 100% sure it was illiterate. But he was just super charismatic, super nice. He like if I handed him something and said this is a 4048 whatever, he just shrugged. He would have no idea. Oh shit! I know how I know. The boxes that contain forks, spoons, and knives, plasticware, disposable. When they come, most of the companies that make them print a picture of a spoon, picture of a knife,
makes
picture
sense.
of a fork.
This one didn't.
There's one company that just does fork, knife, spoon, and I would hand them to him, and he would just throw them. And I was like, no, he wants the spoons over there. And he'd be like, yeah. And I hand him the next box. I'm watching him. He's like, he just throw it. It was like, whatever. He's like, I got a 1 in 3. And I was like, why are you doing this? You always get it right. And it occurred to me, I guess, you use the symbols. You use the guesswork.
Yeah.
It's a little bit about being smart in a stupid way. Like you have to be smarter to be illiterate. Like they have to remember the shape of every box, the way every sign looks because they can't read. I'm not saying they're smarter. I'm saying they work harder.
Yeah, I'm wondering how much your brain changes because you don't know language and the structure and the way it's written out.
It probably has to a lot because everyone else has an easy thing. I look at can you look at a sign and not read it? If you stare at it?
I don't. If it's right in front of you, front and center, and you're like, don't read this, you're still going to read it.
Stare at this.
Yeah.
Right. It's a thing that just happens. You can't turn that off. You can't turn reading off in your brain, right?
Yeah. Well, maybe those people, I mean, the people who are completely illiterate they have to not read it. But the people who are like borderline, or they learn it like age 30, do they just like, maybe they choose, maybe they're like, oh wait, I have to read this. Like they have to focus on reading
think about it for a few seconds. Squint, give it a little old sound it out. Maybe give it a couple letters. I don't know.
So the stats are that there are 40 million Americans out there that don't know how to read.
Really? I had 32 million. Again,
Wow.
we're coming up with these weird,
Kind of similar numbers. Yeah.
No, similar, but different enough where all our other episodes, we have like rock solid numbers are within
I agree.
1%. This doesn't because there's no real way to test, I would imagine.
Yeah, probably fluctuates every year depending on how many immigrants move into the United States as well.
That's true too. Do you know how old our New Year's was? Your study. Mine was 32 million, and I think I got this one from
2016 is what mine says.
I thought mine was from actually 2017.
Okay, so
no, I doubt it. I doubt that's that big of a swing, but either way, mine might be more up. I don't know. I'm not trying to claim precedence here. I'm just trying to figure out
difference in time frames. So yeah, mine was 2016.
And mine with 32 million, they estimated that's 14% of the population.
Actually, you might be reading a similar one. There was one that was talked about how they aren't able to read. What was the level? So mine does start out with 32 million as people illiterate in the United States.
And then you got the percentage of adults who can't read below the 5th grade level. Do you have that one coming up?
Yeah, I have 30 million adults.
Cool. Okay.
Appropriate for 10-year-olds. So they can't comprehend what a 10-year-old would normally read. It was a 5th grade level, yeah. That's a lot. Which is, I guess, in your normal day-to-day life, you interact with how many people? I mean, I probably interact with maybe 50 people max, maybe. It's probably less than that.
Well, are you do you consider interaction someone you drive next to? Probably not, right?
No, probably not. The people that you're...
How about someone you buy something from? Like a clerk? That's an interaction.
Or a cashier. So, like, the cashiers and the people I directly work with, they're forced to have probably some literacy. I would be surprised if someone...
God bless them.
Yeah, someone in my engineering field did not know how to read or write and got into the position they did. That would be a shocker. So
I just want to go to the bombshell.
What's the bombshell?
The celebrity thing.
You can hit it. I mean, we can go down. I mean, the people you interact with on a day-to-day basis, they're probably literate so that they have a job, and that's the reason you're interacting with them. You're not going to areas where people are just doing nothing and not doing... I mean, they're living on some other form of income. Right.
So I was trying to figure out for this episode, famous people, celebrities, really good gritty stories. Like, I want to know if Mark Wahlberg made it as far as he did without being able to read and all that stuff. Like, I was really expecting a few of these.
Mark Wahlberg's intelligent.
Tear jerkers.
Yeah.
I found none, really.
I don't know. For actors and actresses, they have to read scripts, right? Like, how would you say... Like, you have to do this scene and say this line, and they're like, "Could you repeat that?" And it's like,
I'm gonna do it my own way. Boom. And they drop the mic, and everyone's like, "This guy's a genius. He changed the whole script." It's like, well, it's because he couldn't read it. My character's gonna fly off the handle right here. You believe that?
Mm-hmm.
It says here you're sad about your father's death. I'm gonna go crazy. I got Charlemagne. You know King Charlemagne?
Oh, I did read about like the historical figures. Apparently, there were a bunch of people that ruled like millions of people, and they did not know how to read or write.
Well, think about this: if you're king from age 14 or whatever, do you think and you're king? You can literally do whatever you want.
Read it for me.
Boss people around.
You tell me what to do.
Exactly. And then the other thing is, do you think you're going to waste half your day
reading?
You know what? I want to read. I want to learn how to read instead of plow Cleopatra or whatever the hell they wanted to do. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, no, we're going to do the second one. We're going to eat bonbons till I burst. We're going to go shooting arrows into something cool. I think that'll be cool.
The one thing I did read about, there was a king that was illiterate, but he loved the idea of knowledge and via not word of mouth, but written word.
What did he do? Make people read to him?
No, and this is in like the Renaissance. So he promoted all of the art and literature, even though he couldn't read it. I mean, the visual arts, obviously. But yeah, he was credited for forwarding like humankind's awareness of written word when he couldn't even read it.
Well, so I did a list of uneducated and barely literate celebrities, inventors, scientists, things like that, right?
Mm-hmm. I tried, yeah. There's
tons of lists. They show up by the thousands. I had a list that said Abe Lincoln, someone else, and all these other people, and I was like, that's crazy. I gotta look more into this. So I looked, and like all these lists suck.
Yep.
The one was like Steve Jobs, 2 years at Harvard. I was like, that's not uneducated. That's 2 years at Harvard. Like everyone was like, he only spent 6 weeks at the college technology program of his dreams, and then he dropped out. And I'm like, that doesn't count. That's
beyond grade school. Yeah.
So I came with Thomas Edison. He did 3 weeks of high school. And I was like, but he's still. I mean, he probably graduated grade school pretty well. The Wright brothers did not go to high school. Shout out the Wright brothers.
Nice, good job. You did something.
Columbus did graduate high school-ish. I think it's like shady. I think it's like some say.
Did they have high school back then? Is the question?
Exactly. So then I was like, what's with all these other people like Abe Lincoln that keep showing up and everything? And it's like apparently the regulation for school and reading was different back then than it is now. And I was like, yeah, that no shit.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, if he took a test now, he might only have 5th grade reading level. I'm like, yeah, 700 years later. Our whole language is different. Like you're talking about apples and bananas. Of course, King Tut didn't read English that well.
Yeah,
all different things.
So this is what is frustrating as well as probably makes me fearful of the future.
Oh, and shout out Floyd Mayweather. He's actually one of the more accomplished people who can't read or write, according to 50 Cent. But I believe 50 for everything he says.
I thought it was just balance sheets. He couldn't read his own accounts, so he would spend money frivolously everywhere.
I think that's part of it. I think it also he can't read the room. He can't read or write, and he can't read any police orders that say he may or may not have hit a woman.
I read that he would strap money to himself just in case he needed to spend it because he didn't use a bank account for most of it. And
bad guy,
so
bad dude.
This brings up a correction,
a boxing for
clarification. For how much charity you have to have a minimum limit on that one.
No, he wouldn't mess with me. I mean, he doesn't fight people for less than 50 million. So if you guys raise 50 million, I'll fight him. He'll probably fix my nose. It's broken. I don't know if you can see a little bump here. It's because I broke it at a concert. He could probably punch it back straight, and I would tell him he's a bad person right before he did it. So,
well,
you guys want to pledge money? Go ahead.
The clarification is how much money could you possibly carry physically? We had an episode on bank heists. If you were carrying a duffel bag full of money, how much could you carry? Like in pounds, you could say pounds, and I'll convert it for you.
Sure. I mean, I can carry. How much is in a hockey bag? Could you fill a hockey bag?
Yeah. A hockey bag's probably like 20 or 30 pounds, maybe. Probably
you
20
can
pounds.
Stuff 50, 60 pounds in it.
Yeah, so 50 pounds sounds about average for human male.
60, dude. I'm pretty. I carry stuff for a living. Okay, trust me.
The cops are going to chase you down at that point. You're going to move too slow.
Wait, so now I got to be fleet of foot with this.
You have to get in a van.
All right. Give me 50 pounds. What's 50 pounds? I know you've been waiting to do 50 pounds.
Yeah,
Probably got 50 already figured out.
If you were to steal from a bank and had to run with a duffel bag with 50 pounds of 20s in it, which seems reasonable, you'd have about $500,000. Which wouldn't be, I mean, it would be a lot relatively to what you might have right now, but in the course of a life, probably not that much.
Did you figure it out for lesser amounts at all?
I mean, what fractional amount?
Half of 50. All right, so what's half of 50 and then half of that again? So let's say
it's the wrong
25
math.
Pounds is too much. No, it's not.
What?
25 pounds and half of that is 12 and a half. So what's like 12 pounds? Like, let's say I just put it in a tiny duffel bag and I was like, it's kind of, that's
like a fourth of that. Pounds. Yeah. So you get about $125,000.
That's not bad, dude. I could fit $125K in a duffel bag
for committing a crime
and then run it.
Put you away for years.
Any crime's gonna put you away for years. Come on, man.
Yeah. Minimum wage job. You could probably earn that much in a minimum wage job.
No, you couldn't. For shit, you couldn't. Minimum wage is screwed up, dude.
Federal prison.
I'm seeing it, but I'm not sure if I'm seeing it. Is that the minimum wage job or prison?
Oh, I could make more.
Okay. Well, that's not minimum wage.
For the record, I used my pen and I put it through an orifice, which was my hand, and that was the federal prison sign. For those of you not watching the video.
His hand was tenting. That's the term we went over in a previous episode.
Yeah. It was fully I don't know how to say that.
So, do you know how engorged with blood? Do you know how we were just discussing literacy in America hinges very much on racial overtones?
Yeah, literacy tests. You getting into that? So
Well,
like,
I'll go. Well, let's start with the history
sure,
first.
sure.
Obviously, they were actually, for a while, you could teach slaves read, write, do whatever you want with them. There was a slave uprising. I believe it was before 1833. I didn't actually get the year. I just know in 1833 they passed the Alabama Slave Code of 1833. If you
Nat
were
Turner
caught,
Slave Rebellion in 1831.
yeah,
Okay.
okay, yeah, so that makes sense. So then 2 years later, the Alabama Slave Code was released in 1833. They said that you can't actually teach your slaves to read or write. If you did, you were fined a minimum $250, maximum of $500.
So you have to
Back
actively
then, that was
prevent
a lot
them
of
from
coin.
reading or writing.
Yeah, which I thought was a little crazy. Like I thought it was just they just didn't. You know what I mean? Like why would you do it?
That
But now
seems
they're
kind of
like
weird, though. I guess you're assuming that they're never going to integrate with your country, and that you're always going to keep them as a
trying to
slave
do it.
class.
Right. I think maybe there was whispers that it was going to end soon. Maybe there was whispers. I don't know.
Well, the
Something
Civil War
different,
was
they were
in
trying to keep 'em out.
1865, right? So that was
Right,
30
that's
years
like
later.
30 years away. So I'm not sure if you can hear a whisper 30 years prior, but maybe.
Maybe you
I
can.
don't know. Now, what's really weird is there are 3 states that didn't pass it. I don't know if that had something to do with it, like Tennessee,
Border states,
Kentucky.
Mason-Dixon line.
Yeah, so I think that had to do with it. Anyway, a little bit of the beginning of how the racial line began, I guess. Obviously, slavery. Obviously, when they were released, did you want to give newly released black slaves a job? No, they can't read or write. It's almost like to keep them away. Like, sure, they're free people, but guess what? He can't read or write. They can't work for me. So it
So the
became a
physical
thing.
labor, you love the physical labor aspect of it. Or
Sure,
those
yeah,
people
yeah.
back then in the 1800s did.
Right. There's no slave labor on the Empanders, for the record.
Yeah.
Too expensive.
Unless you call what I do slave labor. So.
Labor of love.
The Civil War is
You
an
know when there's
interesting point, though. Oh, you got another one?
Oh, I was gonna say there's another group, women.
So
Did you know in 1730, this is going back a bit of a ways, but this is the crazy big number. 50% of women were considered illiterate.
So some of that's like a religious-based
You know,
thing. It's kind of
A
funky.
little bit, yeah.
I guess whoever has power, whoever is the predominant force, gets to decide things. And then if they say that you don't need to be doing this, you just don't do it because you can't fight the predominant power. Back then, anyway.
That's right. That's understood. I wouldn't even. No one can argue with that. My question becomes then: is learning to read or write that hard or expensive or time consuming? It's a process that I was just gifted. I was given it from an early age and I just did it. Do you think could you put a value on it? I have no idea.
So the value
You know
I
what
would
I mean?
apply is like the job that you could get if there was no job available for you, which
So what would you put on the value of it?
in
Honestly.
today's age, I mean, that's
Yeah,
probably
let's say they outlawed reading and writing. And
for
you were
certain
like,
classes
yo,
of people.
no, for like everybody. Government did it, let's say. Super big law. No teachers.
There's no way
No
that your
reading and
country could survive because you'd have people in other countries that would totally crush you in
I think they
engineering,
would.
science,
I'm
math, all that.
Doesn't really help our exercise here, though.
No. But if they did, how would they squash it? They'd take away the internet. They'd take away books. They'd take away children's books. What would they?
It's almost too hard now because of the
Movies?
internet, but
Yeah.
I guess.
Song? Could you take away YouTube? All YouTube would be gone.
Yeah, internet would be heavily censored.
It's kind of like rap music. Like that. I think some of the people that started out when R&B was like really beginning, that like you would listen to a rap song and learn how to say certain words, or people who are more elegant or more eloquent. Sorry, like who was he?
An example?
He did a song in LSD, and he began every rhyme with
Yeah,
an
I know
L
what
word,
you're
an
talking
SD,
about.
and a D.
LSD. Liquid sand.
Aesop Rock? Is that the one?
Yeah, Aesop Rock. It is.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with Aesop Rocky. Aesop Rock. Yeah, you're right.
Most eloquent rappers. So there's like a rapper's dictionary is one of the most interesting things about how educated people can be. So Aesop Rock is in the top count for 7,392 unique words used in all of his songs.
Is this dictionary unique words used? Obviously.
Yeah, unique words used within
Okay, break it
artists'
down.
first 30,000 lyrics to try to level it off.
Can you
35,000
give me
lyrics.
give me the top 5?
GZA, which I don't know who that is actually.
Okay, I know GZA. Yeah.
I'll have to listen to some of that stuff.
Now I gotta listen.
And then Cool Keith. They're the top 3.
Nope.
Cannabis and Cunning Linguist. I know him. I'm familiar.
Look at this guy, kind of linguist fan over here.
Yeah. But like, so in a way that you're leading back to like trying to break out of illiteracy, it makes sense that rap would come out of that because you're trying to teach other people who may not be reading books, but they're using other forms of media to understand how to be literate, how to understand bigger words that might mean bigger things, which then you could match later on in life to something else.
We're gonna get into something crazy. I didn't think we were going here, but so I'm an English major. I literally studied the English language. Love it. Really good at it. I don't always purvey it because maybe I'm drinking. Some people say I have an accent that is not North Jersey accent. Whoever said that, get out. It's also not Minnesota. Whoever said that, you can get out. Whoever said it's East Texas is incorrect also.
No,
anyway,
definitely not East Texas.
That's what I'm saying. I've spent years, read countless papers, essays, stories, novels, epics, plays, everything. Shakespeare, everybody. The interesting thing about the English language is in some respects it's stone, it's hard. There are rules to it. There are participles. There are ways you're supposed to say certain things. People are always like, Nick, you majored in English. Are you supposed to say, is it better than or better than? Like, and it's better than. Everyone knows that. Mm-hmm. But sometimes people ask me, I'm like, I don't have any friggin' idea, and it doesn't matter. And someone's like, whoa, you got a degree in English. You're supposed to know this. There's something about language that changes. It's constantly changing. Mm-hmm. To keep it solid and to keep it unchanging is actually a crime. We were touching on racial things and everything like that. Yeah. Like people say rap songs or ebonics is not allowed to be a word. People who say ain't is incorrect. It's like, oh, you can't do that in a job interview.
Going to. I always say gonna. Even in emails to people, I say gonna.
I say y'all all the time. Like that's my favorite word. Yeah. Which is funny. I mean, but it's a term. If you write y'all in an email, I'm not gonna blink.
Use.
I don't care. You can say use. I don't care. It's not gonna bother me. English language is very transforming, moving, fluid thing. That's perfect for it. And I think to say that it's too still and too structured and too unyielding is almost not racist, because I'm not going to say mostly African Americans change it, but a majority of African Americans do change it. And to say that that's not allowed is like saying they're not allowed.
Yes.
The vernacular changes with the people, and if the majority of people are using a vernacular, let it go. Who cares? I stopped capitalizing I 4 years ago. I don't give a damn.
No one cares.
The stupidest part of the English language. No one cares that I do it, but at the same time, I don't care that no one cares. I as a capital is so weird. It's like me isn't capitalized, but I is. There's so many things in the English language that we still do to this day that don't make sense. They don't have any bearing. Half of them are based on old dudes with powdery wigs who said that it should be a certain way. The language is based off of what? Stuff in the UK they used to do in the 1600s and ye old, and language changes. I'm not saying we should change it all every day, but hey, Webster's got the right idea. How many new words do they accept every year? Like 4 to 6 words.
I'm gonna have to look that up.
They do a word every year, or is it just one every year they allow in? Like selfie was the big word like 10 years ago. It's like people are like, whoa, language is changing. We can say selfie and it's a word. But who decides what literacy is? It's the gatekeepers.
So approximately 1,000 new words every year.
Oh, that's a lot.
That's a lot of words.
I thought it was like 10 to 20. I thought, but I guess some of them are conjugations of words. Like I'm selfieing. Selfies is different than selfie.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. If you're gonna do multiples of this, essentially the same idea.
5 different conjugations. I getcha.
Plus, you have other conjugates that once you introduce a new verb, it's like couldn't,
Right.
wouldn't, shouldn't. All those things are kind of
Right.
like in the same ballpark. What there's like 30,000 of them. I was gonna say
Right.
30. 30.
So 1,000's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's still. I mean, it's still a lot. It's probably like 150 to 200 words. Actually,
Yeah.
it's probably like 500 words.
Now, who do you think is generating most of those new words? Do you think it's people who are illiterate, or people who are younger, or people against
Young.
the
I think
establishment?
it's a youth. It's a youth thing.
They're trying to make their own world. Essentially, they're trying to make their own universe.
Well, think of. We still don't say. Touching on what I just said, we don't say "ye old alehouse" as extremeth as it doth. Why don't we? Because language changes, and it usually changes to the greater number of people. So, who are the greater number of people? The elite rich people or poor common folk?
Common folk, man, for the win.
Hell yeah.
Taking over the world with
They
language.
should.
True. So
Language is the beginning, I guess.
who's to judge whether you're literate or not? So literacy tests is a real thing that happened in the 1850s and actually the 1960s again. It was one of the things that was trying to, I guess, be maybe derogatory, separatist, kind of like racially classification, a racial classification for people who were voting. So people would come up with these tests and prove that you had to understand English in some level, you had to comprehend it in order to vote, which was shot down, I think, by the 15th Amendment.
What year was this?
So it was 1850s and 1960s. Okay. I think it was right after the Civil War too, because there were Jim Crow.
Civil War.
Yeah,
right.
Jim Crow
and
laws.
What was the second one?
1960s.
Okay.
So you're trying to, it was focused on African Americans. So like the way you phrase the test would be to exclude things that they wouldn't use normally in their language.
Of course. Right.
Which was against our Constitution.
Right. You didn't have any examples, right? I was just curious.
No, I didn't have a.
Didn't give any. Okay. Some articles, it's tough to.
Like what was an actual test? Would the test even make sense to us as 60 years removed from?
So that's a good question. Will language make sense to us in 60 years from now?
Probably not. I guess the other question is.
So many selfies, ninja. By the way, fortnight times. You know.
Will this search term reveal what you really want to know on the internet?
Right.
No. I don't know.
No, it will not.
But should people be illiterate? So the question really is like, I mean, I know these were used for segregating people and making sure people couldn't vote. Do people really need to know the subject matter at hand in order to vote? Like, if you don't understand climate change or you think the Earth is flat, do those people deserve the right to vote? In our Constitution, it says yes, but in our own opinions.
So a little bit what you're getting into is that is a person who's considered learned, is their opinion worth more?
I think that you should listen to the person who's most educated and level-minded. If they're able to analyze something objectively and give objective evidence and tell you why you should believe it, maybe people should buy into that and then vote accordingly. But people don't tend to do that.
What if a trend happens where flat Earth becomes super popular? Like not more than 2% of the population. I'm talking like 15%, 25% of the population.
Politicians now have to cater to the flat earthers and say, oh, well, if the Earth was flat.
What if they did? Just because it was, politics has no spine anyway. It's not like they're like, they stand for anything or science or anything.
Yeah.
Let's say it was just popular and everyone knows it's the popular thing with young people, whatever. And then they went with the majority rule. How would you respond to something like that? Because that's clearly, I mean, I don't agree with it either, but I also would like.
I wouldn't be able to sway the vote anyway because I'm just one vote. If he was looking for like a swing area that had like a majority of people that believe they were flat earthers or a majority of people that believed in flat earth, I guess both. What like I would just be dismayed. I couldn't believe that the democratic voting system would destroy a scientific fact.
So we get in a little bit about can people rule people? Because the masses, they're easily swayed. What's the word I'm looking for?
I would say
They're not
ignorant,
learned. We
actually.
just said, hey, there you go, ignorant. That's a good way
Yeah.
to put it. They're ignorant of maybe too many facts. So we've come full circle where we said, I'm glad the common folk can bring language. They can bring everything. But can the common folk be trusted with, let's say, deciding on science?
Preserving the country and things that are good for
Well,
people in general. Will the general public be able to vote on things that will make it better for the general public?
what do you think?
I don't know. I don't think that the general public
Sounds like you lean
understands.
now. You totally lean now.
Yeah, I don't think they understand the
Lean.
complexity of the
Right.
situation to understand that
I
you need
agree.
to vote a certain way or do a certain thing to fix things. It might be painful, but it might be better for you. So like anything that involves more than 2 steps, people don't follow a lot of the time.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
I don't disagree at all. What's interesting then is that we're running into what level of education should a person have? We all agree they should be literate.
Yeah. So
In a perfect world, everyone should be literate, correct?
I hope so. I hope I could write something down and someone could understand it if I give them a note and say, "Could you do this?"
Right, that's perfect. And be able to read someone else's writings,
Yeah.
know, and they be able to write their own answers back. That'd be perfect. Above that, do we want everyone to do high school, I guess?
For voting, it's 18. For commenting on the internet, it's any
Yeah.
age goes, and people.
So like 10, 5.
Yeah, you're gonna see a load of comments about random BS.
They're all random BS.
Mostly, yeah, or bots.
Mhm. Or bots. You're absolutely correct. I think talking about literacy, I didn't think we were going to go there, but we're almost talking about people in general, right?
Yeah, how people understand is really what we're talking about, I guess.
So here's a question. I know 2 possibly illiterate people from my day-to-day life.
Mm-hmm.
I know for a fact that they're not that deep. Actually, no, the one guy who called everyone baby boy, he can get really deep into football. He knew about like which coaches were really good, and you say like this coach is really good, but like his team never won. And you're like, well, he never had the team, and it's like the team's important. It's like, well, coach really calls a play, and then you talk about which players you have, and if you push the players in the
There's
right direction.
complexity.
And then did he go up against right? Did you go up against the right team? And it's like, oh, every year he went up against the '90s Bills. Like, that was like the buzzsaw at the time. Like he would have won except for this, and then he's like, well, I guess it also depends. Their defense always sucks, so put more onus on the offense. And he's talking like it's a very multifaceted, multi-tiered thing. It's very complex. So someone who can read or write, when you learn to read or write, are you gaining any new thought processes?
Complexity of thought. Do you think
Yeah,
people
are
can
you?
understand like advanced physics or like how the universe is laid out, or I don't know,
Not
programming
necessarily.
languages maybe? I don't know, like level of mathematics.
I don't know. Does it help you become smarter in other areas? Essentially, what you're asking.
I don't know. It's difficult to say because I don't. Most of the people, I'm generalizing people that I think are illiterate. They're not actual people because I don't know
Right.
people that are actually illiterate in my day-to-day life, and I don't
Well,
know.
even I do, but I can't ask them or figure out something that they. You know what I mean? I also can't just assume from them whether
Or they just can't
can or
express
can't.
it. I guess that's the thing you're getting at, is if they can understand that, like existentialism. Like, do you fear your own existence? Like, do you think he would understand what you were saying? He'd just be like Exis, and then he'd fade off. He like
I
it
think,
begins with
I
an
think,
E.
but I think I could teach the one about existential thought processes, like being that thinking process.
But he could never regurgitate it back to you in a way that you'd be like,
No,
wow.
I guess he wouldn't be able to teach anyone else. I don't think. I guess learning to read and write kind of helps you organize stuff in your brain so that you can
Convey it and share it.
yeah, maybe share it in general because you have to do that before you put it to pen and paper anyway, right?
Yeah, I think
You
so.
get information, it just hangs out in here or whatever. But if you're going to put something to pen and paper, it has to organize, turn into a thought, turn into a concise, actual physical medium that you're going to put down on pen and paper and give it to someone else. So it's really like giving yourself back, which is interesting. It's very personal.
Huh.
So is literacy personal based?
Giving yourself a voice that is not present,
It's
I
no one
guess.
else's voice.
It's a
Sure.
time-shifted voice. If you could write something down, someone could read it later. You could spread it to more people than are in front of you.
Yeah.
So I guess I don't know that in today's world that's powerful, but in the past world, that must be a source of power. That if you didn't have newspapers, you had no way of reading, learning to be
100%.
literate, you could use
100%.
literacy against other people, which, I don't think we've ever heard that in my education. No one ever said they used this against
But
other
I'm
people as a
sure
power.
they did.
I'm
Oh, I'm sure
positive.
they did.
If you could write a note to your friend and send it to him, and then he could understand what you're saying, and other people just didn't
They're
understand.
like time travel or something.
Oh, this gets to. Have you seen the movie Arrival?
No, what's that? Who's that?
So, spoiler alert. So, Arrival is all about an alien coming down to Earth, and then there are linguists that are interacting with it, trying to understand what it's saying, and it's trying to teach a universal language that gives you, I guess, powers, quote unquote, to understand various aspects of the universe. So you're going to use this language in the future to talk to other races because it's a universal. Got that part?
Keep going. I don't know what happens. I'm like on the edge of my seat here. I'm like, so do they figure it out?
There's one linguist that does figure it out. Amy Adams, I believe, is the one who figures it out.
Amy Adams is a science movie called Arrival. Okay.
Yeah. I don't. For me, it didn't make sense because of the way that the language is conveyed, because it was mostly visual. Like for me, a language that would be universal would
Emojis.
something.
There's a bunch of alien emojis.
Yeah, a bunch of eggplants. No, but
With a little fist and a squirt mark. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You would think that other aliens would have different methods of communication that might not be visual. They might be like verbal, or they could feel them, or you could send out pulses
Other
or
senses,
something.
right.
Yeah, electromagnetic. You would think that all of those things would be enveloped in this one language. So it's like that language was a tool. Maybe the future is that we have some other higher learning, higher method of communication. So if you were to travel in the future, you might be a complete idiot because people don't understand verbal language.
Which do you think is harder to learn? Let's take Jeannie. Free lunch Jeannie.
Jeannie. Poor Jeannie.
She never got a free lunch. Never paid for a meal.
So Jeannie, you love Jeannie.
Jeannie is the wild child. I'm sorry. If you haven't watched a previous episode, she was raised to age 12.
Yeah, in complete isolation with no social interaction whatsoever.
Yeah, just she was given food, chained to a bed. Like no one talked to her. No one turned teach her to read or write. So people surmise that she's like feral man. She's like, can we teach someone who's been alive for 12 years to read? Can we teach them to write? Are they inherently good? Are they inherently evil? Every psychology class in the world loves Jeannie. I don't, because I love her, but she has never paid for a meal in her life. So anyway.
You're jealous. But I don't know. What is the difference between like visual and audible understanding?
Yeah. Is there? Is there one that's easier? I have no idea. I'm just thinking of it out loud right now. Like, it's almost easier verbal, but that's because you're talking to people since you're born.
Yeah, because you have somebody that comes down
inundated with verbal. It's on TV. It's every other person you meet. But if it came down to it, and you never spoke one, you never heard one, you never wrote one down, anything, and you tried to learn language from day one at age 12 or whatever, which would be easier?
I'll put it this way.
I almost feel like visual.
I agree with you. Visual would probably be easier.
Stays there. It's like verbal. It's like moving too quick, and you're like, "What? That person just made a noise out of their mouth, and I gotta figure out what." And they're making another noise. Visual, you can see it. It stays there. It doesn't change.
I'll also say phonetics. So if you're like looking for a new word and you don't know how to say it, the phonetics look like they're gibberish. They're like an alien language trying to figure out how to say a new word. And that doesn't, for like something that's visual, it's discrete, it's right in front of you. For something that's moving in a fluid, it's one word in a sentence, and you have to understand the sentence in like 5 seconds.
Right. Structure of the sentence, and and you can't stare at it. Once it's out and in your ears, like it's kind of gone. You're like, oh, I didn't catch what order that was. I don't know what happened.
Je suis, I like cookies.
I like cookies. Kevin M.
I don't think that you could understand language without listening to it for a very long time.
I agree. So lastly, I just wanted to talk on, and I think you will bring good insight into this.
I hope.
You mentioned at the beginning of the episode, you think we're heading towards a world that's less illiterate? Sorry, I just want to say less illiterate. More literate?
I mean, all the graphs show that we're becoming more literate as a world.
Sure.
But we're getting to this weird area where we can express ourselves through... It's like video chat. Like the video chat we're having right now, 10 years ago, I don't know that we could do it. I don't think so. So maybe we're heading towards another visual like epoch where we can talk without speaking. Maybe we don't need the verbal part of it. Maybe we don't need to write.
So there are all these studies out here that talk on people who have more sex and more emojis.
More sex.
Yes, I said sex.
They send more emojis because it's more understandable to a wider base of people, which they pull their sex from.
Maybe. So I think it's more less speaking, less fancy terms, less whatever. It's just like you can send a smiley face, a wink face. You're on Tinder. You don't have to write a whole big sentence. Like someone, this is a thing that's happening in language right now. Literacy, everything. When I talk to people online, I think people are more apt to use fewer words
or memes,
more common words and memes. They use GIFs,
yeah,
memes. That's like the new language, and it's dumber than the language I grew up on. But I will say that the language that came before me was probably way more eloquent than mine. There's a comedian that makes a joke about Civil War letters he found from his grandfather. It's like, "Dearest Dolores, I have come to you in means of a means. You have come to me, and I have found myself in a vision that you are more beautiful than any sunshine I have ever seen on a day." And then like he goes on and on. It's like so eloquent, beautiful. But when I send anything to my wife, it's like, "Hey babe, after Acme, maybe we can bone." Like, you know what I mean? And then the next generation's like, it's just sending a Fortnite meme and then like a pelvis thrust. It's like
eggplant.
It's like it's a little eggplant, a little squirt emoji, but like, because for me to make fun of a younger generation, I would have to make fun of my own and say we were also dumber than. So whatever.
This is playing out in Hollywood movies, where the Hollywood movies that are making the most money are the ones that apply to like the world economy. So you can do like a Transformers where there's just a bunch of explosions and stuff that there's no speech, and then the Asian community can buy into it. Pacific Rim, there's just like robots battling giant aliens.
I don't need to know the story. Like, I don't need backlog and discourse and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. So I think
discourse on the way down, but language, barely literacy is on the way up. Is that what you're saying?
I think so. I think I am. I think comprehension might be higher, but explaining the comprehension is lower.
Extremely high level, complicated thought is on the downswing.
Maybe that's the downfall of the world, is that we become so visually based that we can't really talk about issues. Oh no, this is happening. This is happening in real time. I think it is. I think I just see all the Twitter bots with all the Democratic, Republican, Trump, Clinton, just having them all go back and forth about like one-offs. It's nothing in depth.
So where do we see the most eloquent speech? It's not your tweet. It's usually not a Facebook post. You don't write letters to your friends anymore, right?
I see it in like data sheets and technical papers, actually.
Okay.
So I have to read those, but they're painful.
I was a bio major and an English major. Most bio papers and high-level data stuff is very smart, and it's written fairly well, but it's so dry and
it's hard.
Awful.
It's hard to it's painful to read.
It's hard to read. It's not actually good writing. Oh, I will say.
How about like Wikipedia and then Wikipedia, the simple English version?
No way. There's a simpler version of Wikipedia?
I didn't know that? There's a simple English version that explains it not using any higher level English.
Because I think Wikipedia is fairly...
It's straightforward.
Fancy. It's not that fancy. Now, for the episode, I know we're about an hour in. Yep. We're highly educated, college-educated individuals, right? Would you say we're literate as well?
Most certainly.
Okay. So we can read just about any paper we pick up that's in English, correct?
I actually at this point, yeah. I mean, there might be a few
Isn't
terms that
that
we need
crazy?
to search, need to research, but
Oh, I'm sure. But we also could search them really quickly with our smartphones.
that too. Yeah, almost immediately you could figure it out.
So to round out, we don't know what the hell's going on with language, but it's changing, but it's also been changing for years, but it's also hyper connected now.
So wait, simple English for Wikipedia's definition. It is suggested that articles are simplified using only the 1,000 most common and basic words in the English language, and fewer
Wow.
complex grammatical structures, shorter sentences, and conform to a certain skill level.
No complex sentences, thank God. I don't want to see a goddamn semicolon in there.
Yeah.
I'll throw the book at that goddamn
Refer to
son
two
of a bitch.
subjects of the same sentence? No, can't do
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I don't think so. Hmm. Well, I thought we were going nowhere with this episode, but we're really.
It was more of deep and it went elsewhere. I'm surprised, actually. Good thing we could speak to each other and understand what we're talking about. Good thing we're both literate.
Good thing.
But we didn't have to write it down or read it. So, well, I did. But
So who knows if we're literate?
you
right?
could be illiterate. I definitely am
I
reading
could be
stuff.
illiterate. Guys, look, this is what I wrote.
Squiggles.
This is tonight's
Squiggle,
episode.
squiggle, circle, circle. Sine wave
You know what
Z.
this is reminds me of?
Those bottle caps.
Close. Your wedding speech.
Oh, is that what you did? You did a bunch of words. You had a bunch of words on a sheet of paper.
They weren't words. They were fake.
Oh, really?
I spent 15 minutes making fake pages from Pander
You threw
filled
it.
with like words. Yeah, you like that? And then I threw them all. So I wrote like squiggle squiggle, and then I did a little dot, and then I tried to mimic language. I don't know why I spent so much time doing it because it was throwaway. But I got into the zone, and I was like, what would a paragraph look like? And I was like, dot dot dot, and then I was like, and then I did paragraph break, and I squiggled, and then I did like a wavy sign, and then I did a little diddle diddle, and a little this, and all for when I gave your speech. And I said, well, this is all the things on Pander Dan and I did. Oh, can't say them. And I threw it up in the air. It was a good effect.
Yeah.
You all can use that for your best man speech.
So that's it was great and it was endearing and I loved it. Thank you. And the most amazing thing was I looked at your girlfriend when you were doing it, and she had this look on her face like, "This is why I'm with this guy." Like that's what I saw in her. She was smiling at me like, "That's your best friend." I was like, "That's the person you bone." And then, but so
and then you were switching.
yeah, no, there was no mixing. But Dexter Manley actually married somebody that had a bachelor's degree of science. I think it was from Arizona State or something. So he married somebody who was far more educated than him, who didn't realize that he couldn't read or write, and she ended up teaching him.
Know.
She didn't know.
And then they taught him to read and write?
Yeah. So for the male versus female component, if a man is just charismatic and could express himself without having to read or write, it still makes him a viable mate. It makes him so that he can go up the ladder.
It's interesting. We do a whole aside of whether intelligence really reflects education. That's a whole episode unto itself, isn't it?
Yeah. I want to do a little recap. What we cover?
Sure. Let's recap here.
We did like percentage global literacy, illiteracy.
We sure did. We did.
Yeah. All the developed countries. Yeah.
That was in America. I don't know the racial and gender lines in other countries because they have their own history. But we have a very not pretty history here.
Yeah, we touched on manual labor a little bit. We touched on Dexter Manley, and then shoeless Joe Jackson. Talk about notable figures who were illiterate, which didn't seem to apply unless you were a king.
None of them. Yeah, none.
And then slave rebellion and literacy tests.
And the amorphic feel of language? Amorphic blob? Is that a thing?
Flow and transient nature of language? Phonetics?
Language is trans.
Getting weird now. Getting strange. And then we talked on the rappers and their
Yes,
dictionaries, vocabularies.
What was that called?
They're unique words.
Unique word.
Yeah.
Cool.
Aesop Rock, GZA,
like
Cool Keith. Look
cool,
those up.
Keith.
K. Cool with a K.
Say we did a lot.
We certainly did. These episodes are great. I love them. I feel good.
You know what else I love?
Me.
I was going with the audience. I guess so.
I guess the audience too. Why not? Join us.
Folks, we like you. We like you a lot.
Thanks for
Tune in
listening.
next week when you can also donate to our Patreon or other thing in our other website. You can click on here and click on this one and click on this one and click on this one. Thanks, folks.
If you don't know how to read subscribe, it's the red button down the bottom. And if you can't find us, just keep saying unpanderers over and over again until Google shows you where we are.
Spicy meatball. That's my move at the end.
It's a spicy meatball. Good night.